and welcome to Business in a New Normal. I'm Joseph Rosales, and this is my co-host, Ike Devji. How are you today, Ike?
Good, thank you. Good to be back.
Good. It's great to have everybody here. Everybody's looking smiley and happy. The focus of our podcast every week is to provide business owners, leaders, and managers with objective and balanced information that will help you and your business thrive in this very challenging and dynamic world we all find ourselves doing business in. Ike is a highly experienced asset protection attorney and specializes in protecting the wealth of high net individuals and companies. He has clients all over the country, and he's also an author of many articles. He's on many podcasts, and I think has his own podcast at some point, either now or starting soon. Ike, you can talk a little bit about that in a minute too. I'm the leader of a firm that helps businesses to optimize the performance of their people and their processes. We work with leaders, managers, and teams. I get a chance to speak internationally on leadership and management, and it's a blessing to be able to share with others through this podcast how they can maybe see some things differently, shape some perspective differently, and do more for their business and their people and their families. So I'm excited to have our guest today, and I'm going to read her introduction here because it's so impressive. I want to make sure I get it right. Our guest today is Kim Bassett, and Kim and I first met each other, I guess a little over a year ago, I think. And I met her and her brother, Damon Stevens, and I just fell in love with you guys because you're amazing, and you're doing such great work. Well, so Kim's a serial entrepreneur, corporate leader, trainer, speaker, and author, and the mother of 6. And been married for 34 years. She's the CEO of Fontis, a woman-owned marketing and communication company that specializes in print and promotional products. Her teams focus on helping you grow your business, retain your customers, and get new business from qualified buyers. Her first book, the first book of her Pointe of Mastery series, The Pivot Point, comes out end of January. She's also recently started 2 online podcasts, Koffee with Kim and the Fontis Insider. I want to know more about that, Kim. And Kim's a recent guest on our program, and as such, she had so much to share. We asked her to come back, and she's graciously accepted our invitation. So today, Kim's going to share with us a little bit more about pivoting and how people can move forward in these very challenging times. So welcome back to the program, Kim.
Oh, Joseph, I thank you so much for having me back on. It was just such a great experience the first time. So I was more than excited and happy to join you again.
Well, thank you. And unfortunately, we're only going to have about 25, 30 minutes today for the whole program. And there's so much to unpack with you. I'm so excited for the things that are going on in your life and in your company and just all the cool things. So I guess the first question I want to ask you, Kim, is how do you find time? Busy CEO, author, podcast host, mom, friend.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. I'm learning some new skills. Definitely blocking time is something that I'm practicing right now. Practicing is a term that I use quite often with my clients and the courses that I'm building. But yeah, I'm just trying to, keep tweaking and finding, what that best fit is for me, and also learning how to make sure I take care of myself too, because I'm one of those driver personalities where I can put on the blinders and just go, and I can sometimes forget myself. And so that's something else recently that I'm having to remember as well.
Well, I thank you for mentioning that word that a lot of people either don't understand or don't subscribe to, and that's time blocking. If we have a course on time management that we teach leaders, and I always started off by saying, you can't manage time. Nobody can manage time. Guess what? That clock's going to spin no matter what you do or what you don't do. You can sit on the couch or you can get in front of people. It's your choice.
Yep.
But you can manage your activities. You can prioritize, you can discipline yourself to do those things that are of the high priority instead of the things that just, all the little shiny things that we can do as entrepreneurs and busy owners of businesses, right?
Oh, the shiny thing. I think that is an entrepreneur's nightmare, right?
Yeah.
We are that shiny, we like to follow that. And this year, if it's taught me anything, is to to just kind of dull that out
Mhm.
and to focus. It's kind of like taking a box, right, off of a
Mhm.
shelf,
Mhm.
bringing it down, and that's what I'm going to do for that moment. And then
Mhm.
when that moment's done, put the box back up,
Mhm.
bring the next one down, and go that route. But sometimes it's still hard for me to do that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And especially when you're in charge, you don't have to answer to anybody. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. There's a price to pay,
Oh,
but
yeah.
in the end, it's always a challenge. I guess I'd like to start off, and then I can jump in here too. But so when we first met, I was planning my leadership summits. You and your brother were planning a whole bunch of things, and your company was just exploding.
Yeah.
And then March hit, COVID hit, and everything changed. And we pivoted to more of a digital format. And you and your brother pivoted Fontis to PPE from promotional products. And that is that still going? You guys still doing that?
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking me about that. So you were right. When you and I met, we were ramping up and we were getting ready to hire a bunch of people. And because of skill sets and tools that I've developed, I also was able to be aware of what was happening in the world. And I could see how it was going to impact our business. And was very concerned about it. Actually, when March hit, we went from this ramping up to dropping our sales by 98%. We were
Wow,
just almost done.
that's a big hit.
That's a big hit. But because of the things I had done between December and March, I had put into place, even before that, I should say, because of relationship building, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But because of that piece, was aware of what I had started pivoting and doing ahead of time. We were able to pivot very quickly and help some of our
Mm,
customers pivot much quicker.
okay, cool. So talk about that a little bit, because there's you've reached out to a lot of people and you've been helping a lot of people, but what are some of the things you see that your clients are struggling with?
One of the things that they're struggling with is brand recognition, because we cannot be at shows, because we can't be out in large numbers. Um, I was called the show up queen for a lot of time because I'm always showing up, right? Showing up to all the different networking, showing up in my customers, place of business. How can I help serve them? How can I help do whatever? That basically stopped. And so their brand recognition, like, for example, you pick up your phone, right? You've got a brand and you hold that in your hand nonstop.
Yeah.
You go on your computer, you have branding, right? That you see every day. So that is your top of mind. It's going
Mhm.
into your subconscious. And so my customers right now are struggling to keep that not only with their employees, their relationships, but their branding. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that I was on a podcast last week, and they loved this idea, and my customers are really embracing this as well. The masks that we're having to wear now,
Mhm.
they have their branding on it.
Mhm.
It's a
Yep.
billboard. It's a walking
Why not?
billboard.
Why
Because
not?
we're
Yep.
going to the grocery store, we're having to get gas in our cars. Even if we're not gathering in large places, you're using that branding to get your name out there. And people are, will ask in a grocery store, you're in a line, even if you're 6 feet away and you're trying to have some human contact,
Mhm.
I'll say, hi, or acknowledge someone, and I'll ask them about their branding on their mask.
Hmm.
And so I'm getting a lot of great feedback on that.
That's great. And that's an item that is not going away anytime soon.
No, it is
It's
not.
interesting to see people talk about the rollout of the vaccine as the end of the crisis. And I think that eventually it will be, but I think that point, many experts, from health experts to business experts, are saying that by the time we're all actually vaccinated and it's taken effect, it's at least a year out. And so I think that masks and other items, PPE items like that, are going to be part of our culture very heavily for at least the next year. And then beyond that, I think that we are going to see, at least with some people, an adoption of some of the practices that we see in Asia and other parts of the world, where people just start doing it more routinely in flu season or when they're sick. So that's always interesting to see how that evolves. What are some of the other things that you're doing, Kim, that are helping people? You know, we talk, and Joseph and I have talked about this, and I think we all talked about it last time you were on, that it's, in addition to the brand being important, it's the people behind the brand, right? And
Yes,
so
100%.
ultimately, at the end of the day, most people, many people do business with someone that they like or respect professionally, that they feel has credibility. So
Yes.
now that we can't go to lunches and go to meetings and give people that taste of ourselves or our business up close, how how do we use branding to convey who we are in that same way? Or what are some of the other ways that you're helping folks go beyond that? Does that question make sense the way I'm asking it?
It does. One of the biggest things, the reason why I believe that our doors are still open, because, you know, we're still considered a small to medium sized business, right? Even though we roll up to a $2 billion company. But it is relationship at the end of the day. And I think Joseph and I have talked about this before, and with the things that you do with your leadership. It has to do with leadership. It has to do with how, you know, the team that you bring around you. We have an inside sales person who literally calls on our customers, reaches out to them, especially when this happened. I think one of our key things that happened is people were feeling isolated. They weren't used to not being able to have that contact with people. And what we did, we have, you know, I was calling, Damon was calling, you know, Lexi was calling. We have a gal, Sandy, that's our inside salesperson. And Sandy was saying, you know, Kim, she's like, this is so important, because people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I have someone to talk to. And she would get on the phone and talk to them. And literally we're still down from last year, but I mean, we're talking maybe 20%. And I know that's still a lot, but compared to what I'm seeing out in the marketplace, I'm so grateful for that. We're still able to, you know, pay our employees and do the things that you want to do to help our customers. But it's the relationship, and it is that know, like, and trust, Ike, that you said. It's truly caring. It's not just because I want your money. It's letting them know we really do care, and I do. We care so much for our customers, because guess what? We would not have a business without our customers.
You know, it's interesting, and I love that the spirit that you put into that business, that drives that feeling, and it is important. And when we talk about branding, out of sight, out of mind. And we need to make it easy for people to reach out to us. For example, I have some signs being printed right now that's going to replace this photo. And it's the josephrosalesInternational.com. It's the leaderofyou.com. It's right there. And every time I'm on Zoom, which everybody thought Zoom we were going to be in and out of this in 3 months. Remember? March, April, May, June. By June, we'll all be back to normal. No. And I don't know. We call this program Business in a New Normal for a reason. It is not going back to the way it was for many businesses ever. For some, maybe at some point in the future. But between now and then, we need to understand how to better navigate the new normal and do it in a way that helps us thrive. For example, and see, I love that background there. That Fontis background is a great background. And you know, you can have a lot of different ways to do it. But what's interesting is, if we don't acknowledge that we are in a new normal, we will then want to just sit and stew in the old normal. And that is not a productive place to be. I'm not projecting that it's the end of the world. I'm not projecting that the virus is going to be with us forever. I'm not projecting it. I'm just telling you what is today is people need to understand that we are in a different environment now. Zoom is a normal thing now.
Yep.
I can tell you how many Zoom calls I had been on prior to March on one hand in my life. Now I'm double that every day.
Right.
And
Right.
so if your background isn't right, then you should think about making it right, bringing the branding there, because if you don't, you're missing an opportunity to continue to brand who you are and what you do on every Zoom call that you're in.
Absolutely. And your other, to answer your to piggyback off of that, and for both of you, is being online. You both, you've just said it, Joseph. We have to be online, and I think that's the other thing that has differentiated me and what I'm taking it for another step further.
Yep.
Because you've got to not just be online, but you have to provide value, and that's what the two of you are doing with this podcast, and what I'm going to be doing with my show.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I'd love to know a little bit more about this Point of Mastery series, and your new book, The Pivot Point. So maybe take us through that. Take a few minutes to do that.
So, in learning to write books, right? I always thought we had to do these big old thick books. But I think in the new normal, Joseph, people don't have the attention span. They are trying to multitask and do so many things all at once. So my first book, Release What Is Holding You Back, that's small. That's like a hour and a half read.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so my series, I've broken it down into the pivot point is about business. What I did, specific step-by-step things that I did to help my business to thrive and to keep going this year. Then the second book is going to be more of a personal matter, because, your business is only as good as you are, right? And so there's things and tools that I've used that I've helped other and my customers use to better themselves, to be able to withstand a lot of the pressure and the different changes. We don't do well with change, right? As a whole, and we've had a lot of it this year. Yeah. And so having some tools to help with that, that's my second book. And then just who I am is I'm a community person. And even though we're on Zoom, I think we can have that connection. We can have that emotional, that energetic, tie to one another, even though we can't. I'm a hugger, so I miss that hugging. So my third book is going to be talking about how others have done it, right? How other people have been able to manage, either it's personal or in business. And so that's the third book.
Are these all like 40, 50 page books?
Yep. 40, 50 pages. Yep.
My new book, which is featured behind me there, The Leader of You, is 38 pages by design.
And that's a fantastic book.
And well, thank you. And as a matter of fact, thank you for the testimonial that you wrote for it. I appreciate that. And Ike as well. Ike, you both are in the testimonials, and it's done very well for us. And I've had amazing feedback from people that have said, a lot of information in a short read. Thank you. And I had a guy order a bunch more for his leaders in his company. And he said, we're going to use this as a training resource, because we can take each little nugget and expand on it.
Yes.
And that's the best way to use it, is to take, wow, this is a lot of information in a short read that you can read in a day or so.
Yep.
But then you can break it out and say, okay, let's talk about this topic. Let's talk about integrity. Let's talk about honesty. Let's talk about transparency. Let's talk about those 21 leadership essentials and how we as a company are going to build off of each one of them to become really, really even more effective as a leader of our people and a leader of ourselves. So,
and I love that, because I think the best books out there are the ones that you can tweak and apply to yourself.
Yeah.
And that brings us to an interesting question, because we're talking about specific actionable things that you can break down and do and understand in manageable bites, right? How do we eat this elephant one bite at a time? So Kim, what are 3 ways that you would suggest, as somebody who's a marketing expert, as a branding expert, as someone who had to reinvent and pivot her own business? And it's remarkable that you said you're down 20%, but you're up 80% from zero where you were.
Thank you.
Right. Which is, I think, a pretty amazing way to look at it. What are 3 tips that you can share with our viewers to sustain and accelerate their businesses while we have a year or more ahead of these economic conditions ahead of us? We need to be vigilant. We need to be in the fight. We need to be specific and act. Can you give us three specific things that you would advise us to do and think about?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of around what we've been talking about. Number one, critical is your relationships, right? What kind of relationship do you have with your customers? Look at what I also been looking this year. What kind of relationships do I have personally, right? Are you asking your customers who they know that could use your services and help? And do you follow up? One of the things I get complimented the most on is my follow-up. So every step of the way, I have my largest customer that really was the one that kept our doors open. They literally said that, and I have a testimonial from them. They literally said, Kim, you several times a week, you were literally calling us, your product's here. No, there's a delay in production here. I was constantly following up and telling them what was happening. Number one is your relationships. Can they trust you? Do you have credibility with them? So that takes time in building, right? And we had to do that in a very, very quick manner. Number two, being online and your brand recognition, critical. You have to be top of mind to your customers. There's a lot of people out there wanting their business. So, being top of mind and having that relationship, right? I have customers that are calling me on a daily basis. Kim, I need this, or can you do this? And then there's the third one I haven't talked about it yet. It's called the gift shift. Okay. And the gift shift has to do with a little bit of all of it. I have a lot of business consultants come to me because they get really frustrated because their customers, are in a different generation possibly, or they just don't have the experience and know why they should have something in a person's hand, right? And so when you give something, it's the law of reciprocity, right? You give a gift to someone, right? They're grateful for it. And they're like, that's really cool. But then they want to do something in return oftentimes for you. Mm-hmm. And so even though we're not in where we're having trade shows and giving out the tchotchkes and stuff, my specialty is I don't want you to just have a bunch of stuff that's cheap that people are going to put in trash can. I think I talked about this the last time, where I would literally go to shows and see people leave a show and throw half the stuff of their bag away in the garbage. Yeah. So you want something that's of value, right? That you consider them of value. So there's that gift, that shift that happens in people's minds when you give them a gift.
So it's not just pens and squeezers. It's something a little bit more valued, a little bit more substantial, a little bit more customized, a little bit more individualized. Absolutely.
When I did our gifts a year ago, I've met up with one of our customers at a masked event. There was only like 10 or 15 people there, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And he came up to me. He still had my bottle. I had this really nice lasered bottle that we gave some of our hiring customers. And he says, I take it everywhere with me. Guess what?
Yeah.
My name is everywhere. And 2 years later, he still has it.
I want to say something that I think is really important. And you used the word reciprocity in the 6 Principles of Persuasion, which is my next book and digital course. And we've already started roughing it out about a month ago. There are 6 principles of persuasion. The first one is reciprocity. You give before you receive. Yes. And there's a lot of science and psychology behind this.
There is.
And the science is that people feel compelled to open up to you, to give back to you when you've given something to them. You can use the example, if you want to be invited to somebody's party, invite them to yours. It's a simple thing. Yeah. But if you get invited to your party, I'm probably going to invite you to mine. And the easier you make it for me to invite you to my party, the more likely you'll get invited, just because we stay in contact. So there's so much science behind this that starts with making sure people have a gift from you, whether that gift is imaged or not, still has an effect. Imaged is better because now they can connect with you. So, I love that. So you said the relationship and the referrals and the follow up. Those are so simple, but people don't do them.
Don't.
They don't do them, and it's the
Mm-mm.
simple things that confound people. Oh yeah. We reach out. We send them an email. We send them a text. Oh, okay, well maybe how did that work? Well, it didn't. Well, maybe it wasn't done right. You got to talk to people. People want to talk today. Zoom, whatever. And then be online. You have to have an online offering today. Somehow, some way, people need to be able to get in touch with you. And then that third thing, that gift shift, which is that perspective shift. Don't think about it the way you thought about it 20 years ago. It's not all about the little pins and the little cheap tchotchkes. There's a shift in gift giving that starts with shifting your perspective. And if you see these things differently, guess what? They will have a different result because you saw them differently. That's the way it works. We teach that in leadership. Our first chapters in our book is all about perspective. How do you see it?
Yes.
Right. So that's great. Well, we're going to come up on our time here in a minute, but I wanted to, what else you have that you'd like to ask Kimberly about before we begin to tie up?
So Kimberly, I have a kind of a specific question, which is, I'm a business owner. I know that I want to have some branded products and have some giveaways and have some things that help me stay front of mind, as you've suggested. But I don't know which items are appropriate. I don't know where to start. I don't know, anything other than, I've seen some stuff out there with other people's logos on them. So how does this process start, and how do you help me through that?
You set up a call with me and we look at your business. We look at who your customers are, right? And I have for my customers, I have 11 different verticals. So, someone like, you, Ike, you might have maybe 5 or 6 that fit into certain categories, right? We either find something that's going to fit across the board, or if we find something that you maybe have your 3 largest customers and you want something really special for them, we put a gift box together, right? Something that we can, brand either for them or for you, your choice. And then it's literally very individualized. I mean, I can get some generalities, and I will have some generalities in my book, but it's way beyond the pin, like Joseph said now.
Yeah. So you're going to guide a business owner through that process and help them fit the things that are business appropriate and client appropriate. And
absolutely.
Great. Because I know a lot of people get in the mail the catalog, right, that has all the brand stuff in it, and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know where to start.
So
you don't
know
how much to order, and I think that having a consultant that can guide you through that process so that those dollars are spent effectively, and that's also more important than ever before. We can't afford, to just give things away or print pens and baseball hats that are going to sit in a storage room for 5 years.
Right. And,
right.
and the type of things are changing. People are working from home. They want desk items. I'm sitting at my desk more than I ever have.
Yeah. Great. That's a great point, is adapting that to the current reality. So thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Kim, how can people reach out to you and get in touch with you? We're going to have your information on a screen at the end, but I want to hear.
No, I appreciate that. One thing we hadn't gotten into very much is I'm very much online now. I have 2 shows, Koffee with Kim and Fontis Insider, that you can get on YouTube. You can get them on Facebook. Reach out to me. I'll make sure you get on there. I'm always looking for guests. I know Joseph and I will be talking to you about having you on our show soon. But be my guest if you would like to be a guest at gmail.com, and then kbassett@gofontis.com. So I'm very, you reach out to me, I'll be getting right back to you.
Cool. Thank you. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. And we're looking forward to that opportunity to have coffee with Kim.
Yes.
because that's the name of your podcast. Or one of them. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, Kim,
Thank you
again.
so much.
It's our pleasure, absolutely, for joining us and for sharing information. Those 3 points that I think people need to really look at. Again, that whole relationship piece and what that all involves. The whole online presence that people talk about, but what does your presence look like? How is that branded? I recently hired a branding coach to help me with some of my things because we get stuck in our rut. We get in our zone, our path that we're always on. And there's other ideas, there's other ways to do this. So I think that's important. And then that gift shift. I love those 3 ideas. So thank you for sharing those today. Any final words for our listeners that you'd like to share, Kim, before we tie this up?
Well, just first of all, Joseph and I, thank you so much for having me on again. Just to be on twice, what an honor. I'm so excited to see how this, I would have really liked to know how this has impacted, reach out to me. I would really like to know if what I'm saying, if you try it, how it works for you, right? That's my biggest thing I want value. I want to add value to people's lives. And so if something that I've said or done that has added value, I would love to have that feedback.
Cool. And please do that. Absolutely. Anybody listening, you can reach out to Kim via email at kbassett, BASSETT, 2 T's. That's right.
Yep.
At
Go Fontis.
Go Fontis, Fontis. You see it on the screen behind her.
Yep.
So, Ike, any final words from you, my friend?
No, I think we've covered a lot with Kim today, and I certainly appreciate you being back with us.
Thank you.
As I do. So with that, I'm Joseph Rosales for Ike Devji, and thank you again for Kim for joining us. And please be safe, and we'll see you next week at Business in the New Normal. Bye-bye for now.